A very good evening to you. Are you ready to do the math? Are you ready for some hot Jaguar action? I hope you are. I hope you're also ready for my cool new cyberpunk background, which is very exciting. I thought if I'm going to stand here like this, I may as well have some funky pixel art in the background as well. So here it is. Courtesy of Itch. Someone on Itch, whose name I've already forgotten. Hold on, let me credit them, because that's only polite, isn't it? Even though I paid them $5 for this. I didn't have to, but I thought it's only fair. It's by Ansimuz. Ansi, A-N-S-I-M-U-Z. And it comes with this background, which is a little bit wider than it looks. And it's also in PSD format, so you could use it for parallaxing stuff as well. But I haven't quite figured out how I might use that on stream yet, so it's just going to sit there for now, which is nice. Anyway, what I've promised today is the secret to enjoying the Atari Jaguar. Now, the Atari Jaguar is a console that's not particularly fondly regarded, shall we say, by the masses. But it does have a very passionate community of followers. It does have a lot of people who really, really like it. It's got a very active homebrew community as well. And yeah, I've always been very fond of it. My brother had one when it was new. And it was clear when that first came out that it was a bit of a peculiar system. But it was oddly likeable. I mean, I'd grown up with Atari systems already, including some of the less successful ones like the Atari Lynx, which we looked at last week, I think. Yes. But the Jaguar, always been very, very, very likeable system. It tries its hardest, and you get the impression that it's really trying its best to do something new and interesting and just sort of not quite managing it. And I think the interesting thing about it, I had this real sort of revelation about it this week, which was that the best way to have fun with the Atari Jaguar is not to think about it and compare it too much to the other stuff that was around at the time or which was about to arrive at the time, but instead think of it both in terms of its own merits, because it does have some of its own merits, and also think of it in the context of other stuff that Atari's done. And I think this latter one is probably the most important thing to think about. Because if you think about it in that way, then it sort of makes a bit more sense. I'll tell you what I mean. So, Atari's consoles over the years all have several things in common. They have all had a strong focus on sort of arcade-style games. They have all done something weird with their controllers. And aside from the 2600, they've all been sort of niche interest things. Hello, Flame. How you doing? We've got an Atari Jaguar lover in the chat. That's a good start. Yeah, so aside from the Atari 2600, which was obviously massively successful and which helped to kick off the games industry as we know it today, aside from the whole crash thing, but, you know, we don't talk about that. All of the other Atari consoles have sort of languished in second place behind other stuff that was happening at the time. I agree. Saying it dramatically is fun. Atari Jaguar! Anyway, yes. So yeah, all of the consoles had a focus on arcade-style games. They all did something weird with their controls. And they were all a bit, you know, niche interest. Now, on the controller front, if you've never seen a Jaguar controller, I think that is worth sharing with you. So, if I just reveal that to you right now. Here is a Jaguar controller. Hopefully you can see that in just a moment. There it is. See? That's a Jaguar controller. A lot of people think that that's not a very comfortable controller, but I actually rather like it. Because it's got very nice buttons. The A, B, and C buttons are very nice and satisfying to press. The D-pad is a little bit squishy. I'd prefer a D-pad with a little bit more click to it, but it's okay. It's okay. And then the really interesting thing about the Jaguar control pad is that telephone keypad down at the bottom, which is something that Atari previously tried with the Atari 5200. And then kind of left aside for the 7800 and then came back to with the Jaguar. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 additional buttons that you can use in games to do more complex things than you would do with the more sort of thumb buttons that you'd have on a conventional controller. So the stuff that was on the keypad tended not to be sort of stuff that you would be using a lot during a game, but things that you might need to do every so often, like changing your view or, I don't know, activating your afterburners or changing your weapons or something like that. And much like the Atari 5200, a lot of Jaguar games came with a little overlay for that keypad you could put over the top of it. So rather than just having to remember which number did what, you actually had a little thing where it was like you pressed the change weapons button. It was very cool. It was very cool. I don't have many of those, but I have a few reproductions for a couple of games. But in a lot of cases, I still have to remember the numbers. But anyway, let's put that away. Like I say, I'm very fond of the Jaguar. It has its share of games that aren't very good, but so does any console. And it also has a fair few games that I think are better than people think. Particularly if you take it in terms of its own... If you take it on its own merits, if you see what I mean. And if you think of it in context of what I've talked about at the beginning, which is, if you think of the Atari Jaguar as a successor to the Atari 7800, think of it as the Atari 10400 or something, then it makes a lot more sense. The type of games we get makes a lot more sense. The sort of scrappy nature of some of them makes a lot more sense. And yeah, thinking about it in that terms, so just help me to enjoy the whole thing a lot more. So, we're going to switch over to gameplay view. There we are. I have a Jaguar game drive, which is a cartridge you could plug into the Jaguar, stick an SD card in, and then put all the ROMs and stuff on there. And the ROMs are pretty readily available on archive.org and places like that, so it's not something you need to worry too much about Atari coming after you for. The game drive's slightly more recent firmware updates also add slightly shaky Jaguar CD support as well. So the few games that were released for the Jaguar CD, you can play using the game drive now as well. And then, of course, you can put more recent releases and homebrew stuff on there as well. So, I thought we'd just spend a bit of time playing... excuse me. I thought we'd just spend a bit of time playing some stuff on the Jaguar today. So we're going to start with probably the most well-known game on the Jaguar, or the one that everyone says is sort of the best game on the Jaguar and all that. We're going to start with Tempest 2000 by dear old Jeff Minter. So, now, one thing I will say is that the Jaguar has very quiet sound output. So I don't know how well you'll be able to hear all this. I have turned the volume up a bit on the stream, so hopefully you'll be able to hear it. But it is very quiet. The Jaguar is just a quiet system for some reason. If you can't hear it at all, let me know, and I'll try and push the volume up a little bit more. If you can sort of just about hear it, that's hopefully fine. Anyway, Tempest 2000, a game which Jeff Minter made for the Jaguar and has been continually remaking ever since. We'll go straight into Tempest 2000 mode. This is a reimagining of the classic Atari arcade game. You have your vector graphics tunnel and you shoot things, and that's about it. But it's fun. And it's regarded as one of the better games on the Jaguar for the fact it performs quite nicely, it plays well, it's a good format of game for the controller, and it's got plenty of that characteristic Jeff Minter Llamasoft flair to it. So if you've not played Tempest before, it's exactly as it appears. You are the yellow thing on the outside of the tube. You point down the tube and you spew your hot plasma death towards the things that are coming towards you, which are mostly conveniently coloured red, so you can easily spot them. You clear out a stage, grab power-ups as you go, and then once everything's dead, you move on to the next stage and repeat the process until dead. Very nice. Hello, Richie Head Gaming. Good to see you. Welcome to the world of Atari Jaguar. We're playing Tempest 2000. And my Super Zapper has been recharged. Yeah, honestly, I've never been a huge fan of Tempest, but I do like the original Tempest, that is. But I do like Jeff Minter's reimaginings of them from over the years. I really like TXK on the Vita. And Tempest, what's he up to now? 4000, I think? He released for Switch and PS4 and various others a while back. But this game is basically where his whole obsession with Tempest really started. He also did a couple of other sort of reimaginings of classic arcade games on the Jaguar as well. He did Defender 2000 as well, I think. Don't think I've actually tried that one before, so maybe we'll give that a bit of a go today. I'm having some fun with Tempest at the minute. Yes, it was Jeff Minter who defictionalized Polybius. Polybius is... I guess you'd call it a little bit Tempesty. It's a little bit different in that you're sort of continuously moving along a path rather than sitting in one place. But it's certainly got Tempest-style ideas to it, except it's got a bit more kind of racing-style feels to it. It's a fun game, especially in VR. But arguably not his best game. Yes, there was always going to be some Jaguar action. I spent a lot of money on picking this Jaguar up, so I thought I might as well use it for something at some point. And as I was saying at the beginning, it's a system that, although popularly regarded as not great for various reasons, it's also one that a lot of people have a ton of affection for. So, there's a super active and passionate homebrew community for it. There's a very strong I don't know if you call it preservation. Yeah, I guess it is a preservation community who are keen to sort of celebrate the games that it had to offer, both from back in the day when it was released and which have been released since. And it's just a real kind of enthusiast console, I think. I think everyone who owns a Jaguar and who takes an interest in a Jaguar is familiar with the flaws it has, but if you're willing to look at those flaws as sort of charm points, there's a lot to enjoy here. And like I say, since I had my revelation the other night, which is that the Jaguar is essentially... It's not a competitor to the PlayStation and Saturn. It's not trying to be like the next gen of gaming or anything like that. I feel like it's a successor to the 2600, the 5200, the 7800. I feel if the Jaguar is called the Atari 10400, people might think about it a little bit differently. Because it's got that same focus on sort of relatively short-form arcade-style games rather than the longer experiences we were getting on other platforms. It's got that interest from like the homebrew and the demo scene that the home computers had. And I don't know, it's like I say, it's just a very charming, very likable system. Out of here! I haven't actually tried the Wolfenstein and Doom ports as yet. We'll have to give those a go today, as they are on my game drive. If I remember correctly, the Wolfenstein port is it incorporates stuff from the Mac version, which is a little bit different to the PC version. So there's like some additional weapons and the graphics are slightly different and so on. So in terms of sort of console versions of Wolfenstein 3D, that's a particularly interesting one. And of course, for a while, getting Doom running on a console was kind of the holy grail. Even if we're now in the age where you can run Doom on a fridge. Me and my brother told my parents about that the last time we went back to visit them, because my parents were always interested in sort of the development of game and computing tech when they were a bit more active in the scene and so on. When my dad was sort of working used to work for IBM and various other IT companies and that sort of thing. And when my brother and I were at home, obviously they took a sort of interest by osmosis, but yeah, they hadn't sort of kept up with stuff a bit more recently. But obviously my mum and dad knew what Doom was because I used to play it a lot back in the day, and we had plenty of discussions over, oh, is it appropriate to play violent video games and that sort of thing. But obviously they hadn't kept up with sort of some of the more recent news, like getting Doom to run on anything being being a big thing in tech at the minute. And so they were very amused at the fact you can get Doom to run on a fridge or a smartwatch or things that really aren't supposed to run Doom. Richie asks, was there ever a justified use for the Intellivision-esque number pad on the controller? Yes! Yes, there was. Not in this game. Not in this game, because this is obviously a very simple arcade-style game. But in games which had slightly more complex controls, it was used for things that you didn't necessarily need immediate, easy access to, but which were still useful to have available on your controller. So yes, one example would be like switching weapons in Doom. In the sort of 3D games like Cybermorph and so on, you'd have switching weapons, you'd have changing views, all that sort of thing that you didn't necessarily need immediate under-the-thumb access to, but which it was useful to have to hand, as it were. And a lot of people assume that the Jaguar controller would be really uncomfortable because of that number pad sticking down at the bottom, but the actual sort of ergonomics of the pad are quite nice, because round the back of the controller there's a sort of indent where the trigger buttons would be on like an Xbox 360 or a Dreamcast controller, so there's a really nice comfortable place for your fingers to sit, and you just hold it around the sides, and it's just quite a sort of nice hefty controller to hold. And the 3 action buttons at the top They feel really nice. They've got a nice sort of dint in the middle of them. A bit like the Lynx buttons, if you ever use those. My only real criticism of the Jaguar gamepad is the D-pad, which is just a little bit squishy. It doesn't really have enough travel to it. It could do with just sort of a little bit more. It's not that it's not responsive. It's that it feels like it could do with a bit more click to it, as it were. Like the Lynx 2's D-pad was very good. That had a nice click to it. So if they'd used something like that, that would have probably been good. But the Jaguar D-pad is closer to how the D-pad was on the first Lynx. So it's a sort of circular D-pad with a cross sticking out of it. So it's okay. I've used worse, but it's also not the best. How's the sound level on the game, by the way? Like I said at the start, the Jaguar has very, very quiet sound output, so I wasn't quite sure what to set the volume level at. Can you hear it at all? Because I turned it up a bit from what I'd normally put it as on streaming, but if it's still too quiet, I can bump it up a bit. Good sound? Good. Alright, we'll leave it at this for now. But if anyone does want to hear the sound a little bit more, let me know, because the Jaguar games tend to have a gloriously 90s sound about them. And that's part of the appeal. Lots of electronic music. It's got a lot in common with the Amiga. A lot in common with the Amiga. So if you're familiar with sort of Amiga games that use a lot of digital music, a lot of music tracks on Jaguar games sound very much like Amiga games, because they use the same kind of technology, which was kind of multi-track samples. So rather than being synthesized as such, whoops, shot you! Rather than being synthesized as such, they would use actual samples and sequence those to produce something that wasn't quite up to the full quality of pre-recorded music, but it was closer than the synthesis that sound chips were doing at the time. It's certainly far cry from the poor old Atari ST sound chip, for one thing. Eat electric death. Oh! How was that? That was a big bullhead. Yes, I must confess, despite having had this Jaguar for a while now, I sort of kind of picked it up on a whim, maybe a year or two back now. I've not spent a lot of time with Tempest 2000 here, because it's... Part of it is I sort of felt like that's sort of too obvious a game to enjoy. Like, I wanted to explore some of the deeper cuts in the Jaguar library. Everyone knows that Tempest 2000 is good. Everyone says, oh, the Jaguar is terrible apart from Tempest 2000. Not everyone says that. People who like the Jaguar don't say that, but, you know. So yeah, I've kind of held off exploring this a bit, but I'm having a good time here. It's a good version of Tempest. I would expect nothing less from Jeff Minter. But it's good to see that this game lives up to its reputation. But I mean, just in the case of this game, you can see kind of the distinction between what the Jaguar was offering and what the subsequent stuff like the PlayStation and the Saturn were doing. Because although there were arcade-style games on both of those systems, they didn't form the majority of their library. Games were starting to get more ambitious and large in scale, so we started to get more in the way of things like RPGs and adventure games and vaguely cinematic experiences and that sort of thing. Whereas the Jaguar was... a lot of its games were still very much designed on the principle of you sit down, you play, you enjoy yourself, then you put it down and you come back later, you sit down, you play, that sort of thing. Quite a different philosophy. And still a valid one. But for a time, I think, and we started to see this in the 16-bit home computer era. I can never say that word properly. We started to see it a bit in the 16-bit home computer era. That certainly critics thought that we were better than arcade-style games. They thought that we had sort of gaming had much more to offer than just arcade-style experiences, and they were probably right, because yes, there are a lot of additional things you can do with video games besides just sitting down and trying to get a high score on something. But that doesn't mean that those arcade-style experiences are invalid. It doesn't mean that we should sort of leave them behind altogether. Which is where stuff like the Jaguar comes in. Anyway, game over. That is Tempest 2000. I've had fun with that. And I can put my name in. Enter 3 initials, dude. Let's do that. Don't know if this saves. But we'll see. P. J. D. Press fire. Yes. The good old times when we had one fire button. Look at that. I'm the only one with level 10 on the scoreboard. I'll be right. 1981 to 1994. There we go. Right. I'm just going to have to reach over and press the power switch because the Jaguar unfortunately does not have a convenient reset button. So bear with me just one moment if you please. Yes, we are playing on real hardware. Right. Okay, one game I did want to have a go at is Checkered Flag, which we looked at a Lynx version of a little while back. The Jaguar version is a completely different game and is often held up by a lot of people as one of the worst racing games ever created, etc., etc., and all that. I tried it the other night and I don't think it's that bad, you know? I mean, it's not one of the best racing games that has ever been created or anything like that, and it has a dodgy frame rate, but I certainly don't think it's one of the worst games that's ever been created or anything like that, so I thought we spend a little bit of time with it now. Checkered Flag! Right, so let's choose a nice colour scheme. I'll go with Williams-style blue and yellow. Don't know what these do. Automatic transmission for now. We'll do a single race of 3 laps and we'll do it on... It's got to be the hole, hasn't it? It's got to be the hole.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Right. So, as soon as we start moving, you will probably see the reason why people don't like this game very much, which is the frame rate. Which highlights something quite interesting about the Jaguar, is that in a lot of cases I find like its performance is much more akin to home computers than what you would necessarily expect from consoles. And so having grown up with the Atari ST and sort of the sometimes questionable frame rates that you get on that... Oops, not doing very well so far. I don't really have a problem with this game looking and running like this. Perhaps you might expect a little bit better from a system that's marketing itself as the first ever 64-bit system and all that, but, you know, it's not unplayable. It's not unplayable. It looks okay. Once you once you figure out the controls, which are quite sensitive, it has to be said, there's definitely fun to be had here. Right, this is a game where the keypad comes into play because you can use the keypad to change between different views. So, for example, here I've got this very close, low-down view, and I can pull it back like this. So, yes, it's very obviously a Virtua Racing rip-off. I would assume Virtua Racing came out before this, because this is very obviously a clone of what it's doing. And actually, I find this far off view is actually a little bit easier to handle. A little bit less prone to oversteer. Although it does pan down to that close-up view when you're in the tunnels. You have to be a little bit careful when you're doing that. One thing to bear in mind with this game, I think, is that it's a racing game where you actually need to It's a racing game where you actually need to let go of the accelerator and use the brakes occasionally. Is there an upscaling filter applied? It looks almost like the 2x psi option emulators offer. No, there's no filter applied to this. I am running it through an upscaler, but it's only like a cheap Chinese box. So all it's doing is it's taking the raw SCART signal and just converting it to 1080p, 60 Hz. So it's not doing anything fancy, I don't think. Let's try another race. Let's try Sunset Strip.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
So yeah, unfortunately I don't have the money to stretch to like a Frame Meister or something, but that would be nice. But my cheap little Chinese box that I got for 15 quid off Amazon is done perfectly fine for me for the last 3 or 4 years, so I'm sticking with that for the minute. I think it gives a pretty nice picture actually, and it doesn't seem to have much in the way of input lag or anything like that, so while a Frame Meister or a Retro Tink or something would be very nice to have, certainly it's not something I feel a need to prioritise spending a lot of money on. Yeah, it's always quite nice to plug in an old game system and find out that it still looks pretty nice through that device. I'm not sure what resolution the Jaguar actually runs at. From what I've seen, it seems to have multiple different graphics modes that it can use, depending on what it's doing. And some of the better games actually seem to benefit from using the lower resolution modes, as you might expect, because you get better performance from them. Not having a great race here so far. Oh, back into second already though. Carefully in the tunnels. So yeah, I don't think this is an awful racing game. As I say, it's by no means the best racing game or anything like that, and yeah, if you're snobby about frame rate and performance, this probably isn't going to change your mind too much, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Which is fine with me. Alright, let's try one more race. Let's try weather. Let's try in the fog. And let's try Arctic Run. That sounds like a good race to do in the fog.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Good old pre-texture map fog. Just reduce the already short draw distance. And haze it off a little bit. And actually very slightly improve the frame rate in the process. Oops. Slow down, slow down. Yeah, I found it quite interesting that the Jaguar and the Lynx have a couple of games with the same name, but which are completely different games. So Checkered Flag is one, and there's also Blue Lightning, which is one of the CD games. Both of those are also Lynx games, and I think the Jaguar version of Blue Lightning actually had epics involved with it. But they are completely different games. They're not just straight ports of each other. So if you remember, the Lynx version of Checkered Flag was kind of a pole position-esque racer with the sort of classic Vanishing Point style of presentation, whereas this is fully polygonal. Blue Lightning on the Jag CD is a similar sort of game to the one on the Lynx, in that it's a sort of vaguely Afterburner style 3D shooter. It just feels a bit different. Blue Lightning on the Jaguar feels very much like that sort of distinctive early era CD-ROM game. Now the CD-ROM emulation on the Jaguar game drive is a little bit flaky at the minute, so I can't guarantee we'll be able to get Blue Lightning running today, but we'll maybe give it a go in a bit. As the game that was one of the pack-ins for the Jaguar CD-ROM add-on, it's quite an interesting game. Oop. Oh god, too hard. Oversteer. I see you. I see you. Go on. Oh, didn't quite take second place. Right. So that is checkered flag. Let's switch over to something else now. Bear with me one moment. Let's see if we can get Blue Lightning working. You gonna work? Fingers crossed. Nope. Sometimes you need to try it a couple of times. Let's try that again. You're not going to play with me, Blue Lightning. One more try, then we'll do something else. Apparently, I have it on good authority from Jaguar CD owners that having to make several attempts to get a game running is very authentic to the original hardware. There we go. Right. Blue Lightning! Look at this full motion video.
Blue Control, this is Blue Leader. I'm under attack. Roger, Blue Leader. Engage and destroy. Locked and launched. Nice shooting, Blue Leader. They need more practice. One bogey left. It's a Draco jet. Engaging. Toasty, the skies are clear. Come on home, Blue Leader.
Very cool. I'm sure you'll agree. Right. So let's play Blue Lightning. And we'll just go play now. You may have noticed at the beginning of the intro sequence, it said memory track not found. Now the Europe.
South Africa, Europe.
The Jaguar CD had a cartridge slot that you could plug in a thing called the memory track, and that allowed you to save your games. Game Drive currently doesn't have support for that, unfortunately. Yeah, so you just have to play and see how you get on. Mission Vault. Gratuitous 90s interface animations. ID positive. Access granted. Draco has built up a major residential and business centre in Europe to coordinate his crime syndicate. We must shut down this criminal metropolis, but it will require top flying skills to avoid buildings and gunfire. Accept the mission. A high-altitude recon plane will fly over and take spy photos of the city centre. Protect the plane while it finds a weakness in the city layout.
Hornet.
So I think we only have the Hornet accessible to begin with. Press down to select weapon. Okay, we have no weapons to select, so we just have missiles and guns to begin with. Warning, this is your last plane. Be careful out there. Prepare for pre-learned launch sequence. Get ready for action. And here we go. Blue lightning.
Good to have you with us, Blue Leader.
So again, we have... This is all sprite-based rather than polygonal, I think. But much like the Lynx version, it does do actually quite a reasonable job of tracking things in 3 dimensions. Because you need to keep an eye on where that plane you're escorting is.
You're going down.
Watch out for things that are coming from behind you and all that sort of thing.
Hey, watch what you're shooting.
Hey, watch what you're shooting. Where's he gone? There. Oh dear. Have I died already? That's not very good, is it? I'm dead. What a good start. Let's just try that again, shall we? In fact, I'll tell you what we'll do. Rather than going play now, we'll go new pilot. Because that will let us play the training missions. Enter your name. Oops. PJD. Go for medium difficulty. And off we go. Training. You must prove yourself in the simulator before you can join Blue Lightning Squad. Your plane and weapon load will be chosen automatically. Tank Busting 101. Destroy as many tanks and targets as possible. Anti-aircraft tanks are your greatest threat. Okay, so we can just blast things willy-nilly.
Avoid enemy gunfire.
And avoid enemy gunfire. So we can get a cockpit view. What is the button for that? I've forgotten. Not that one. That's... Oh, there we are. Yeah, the cockpit view is kind of silly because it doesn't bank or anything like that. But it is much easier to hit enemies from it. Or crash into walls, apparently. It's a good thing this is only the practice tour. Otherwise, I'd be dead. Right, let's do that again. Less faffing around with the controls this time, as I should be able to get straight into the cockpit. There we are.
Use missiles and guns against ground forces.
You have infinite gun rounds. So you don't need to worry about letting go of the fire button. Missiles would only work if they lock onto stuff, though. And then you can use your altitude to actually fly over things, which is exciting. Yeah, it's just a bit of a shame that the cockpit view doesn't bank from side to side when you turn. I think that would have really helped with the kind of immersion side of things. Aside from that, I think this is quite a cool looking game. I like the idea of a sort of low level aerial assault game. So flying very low over the ground and shooting targets like this is a lot of fun. Probably better suited to a helicopter than a jet fighter. But it is what it is. You can always imagine you're flying a helicopter instead of a jet fighter. And there we go, victory at our first training mission. And a successful landing that we don't have to do ourselves. So let's just skip that. Points! Congrats! Right, so now we're doing air combat. And again, it's just much easier to do this from the cockpit view.
Use air brakes and afterburners to get behind the enemy.
And as the lady says, we can use air brakes and afterburners to adjust our speed if we need to. So if you know there's stuff coming up behind you, or stuff that's a long way ahead, you can alter your speed to catch up with them or let them fly past you.
Take out enemy aircraft.
And again, you've got your guns and missiles. You've got limited missiles, but you've got unlimited gunshots. And I don't believe there's any bonus for how many missiles you got remaining at the end of a stage or anything like that, so you may as well use them. The meters at the side of the screen, if you're wondering, the one on the left is how much damage you've taken, or your health, I guess, and the one on the right is how far through the level you are. So that counts down to the end of the level. So we're nearly done already. And there we are. Another successful mission. And some more points for me. 73% missile accuracy. Excellent! Maybe that accounts for your bonus score. You get bonus points for having some missiles left over or making good use of them. Destroy the enemy fuel sites. Don't let the surrounding tanks stop you. Another strafing run. Low-level ground assault. Give me that cockpit view.
Destroy the enemy supplies. Avoid enemy gunfire.
This is a cool stage. I really like the sort of aesthetic of flying a jet at super low altitude through the middle of a city. Again, it sort of highlights the lack of banking when you turn in this, which is a bit of a shame. But it's still fun for how ridiculous it is. And again, you can use your guns or missiles. change your altitude. Whoops! Bonked into a building. Let's just pretend that didn't happen, mister. Fine, we'll do it again. Get ready.
Destroy the enemy supplies. Avoid enemy gunfire.
So this game to me very much has the feel of sort of early CD-ROM games. Like there's that sort of attempt to put in slightly more graphical detail than the platform could really handle. Earnest attempts to be photorealistic that don't quite work, but they still have a certain amount of charm to them. I would have probably been impressed by this back in the day. Even knowing that stuff like PlayStation and Saturn were around the corner. Okay, it reminds me quite a bit of some stuff available on 3DO looks quite a bit like this. And I know the 3DO is a system that you can laugh and joke at a bit like you can with the Jaguar, but again, there's a lot of those games I really wanted to play back in the day because they look cool. They look quite unlike things that I played on previous generations of console hardware. And I was all for that. Absolutely all for that. More bonus points for me. Missile accuracy is 0% because I didn't fire any. Battle 101. Take out ground targets and watch for enemy air activity. Make the most of your guns and missiles. So a bit of both now. Full scale battle. Get ready for action. I'm on the case. Use a few more missiles.
Keep an eye out for helicopters.
Oh, I'll keep an eye out for helicopters, alright. I think I would have liked this back in the day because although it's obvious that it's not going in the same direction as those games that were pursuing realism were, so it's not using polygonal graphics or anything like that. This is pretty much all sprites. I would have liked it because it reminds me of arcade games. There are arcade games that look like this. Yes, they probably move a bit smoother than this. But there are still arcade games that look like this. And I would have been thrilled by the opportunity to play games that look like this at home. Over the top. And back down again. Starting to get a bit short on missiles, but we're not far off the end of the level. Pew 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 pew. I think one thing this game could maybe do with is just some slightly meatier sound effects. Because, like I've said, although the Jaguar has pretty low sound output anyway at the best of times, everything's kind of a bit drowned out by the sort of by the CD music. I mean, the CD music is awesome, but that it does only appear to be one track. I think I've completed my training, ladies and gentlemen. See, no half-mast flag for me. Congratulations, you are now a member of the Blue Lightning Squad. You may choose your first active tour of duty. So the play now. The play now save gives you access to this straight away. Although I encountered this last time I tried it, the game does sort of freeze at this point. So I can't actually choose one of those tours of duty. So if you want to play from the actual start of the tours, you need to restart the game and play from the play now option. Anyway, that's probably enough Blue Lightning for now. So let's reset and try something else. Right, we're going to move on to some homebrew games now. And go on to Fallen Angels. So prior to doing this stream, I sort of trawled the Atari Age threads and so on and looked for recommendations for homebrew games for the Jaguar to try. And this was one that came up quite frequently. I initially didn't know what it was. But then someone said those magic words. It's a Jaguar version of Rescue on Fractalus. And, well, I knew from then that I absolutely had to play it. Because Rescue on Fractalus is one of my all-time favourite games. The Rescue on Fractalus, if you've not encountered it before, it's a pretty simple game. But it was noteworthy for appearing on 8-bit home systems and providing a convincing 3D landscape through fractal generation. And so what this game is... Can I select the level? Oh, you do it with the pad. No, I don't want to start at level 40. Let's start at level 5. There we go. That's what your keypad's for. I'm going to start at level 5 because the first few stages of this are very, very, very easy. So let's start from where there's at least a little bit of challenge. And I'll show you how it works. Press A to start. So yeah, the concept of this game is that a bunch of pilots have crash landed on a very dangerous planet. And it's your job to go and rescue them. Oh. I launched straight into the nighttime mission. Alright. But that's fine. We'll just have to deal with that. So what you do is you look for the pilots on your scanner, which is the left-hand side of the screen, and then you land near them by pressing the 1 button on the keypad. Turn off your engines by pressing 2 button on the keypad, and open your airlock by pressing the 3 button on the keypad. Let them in, then take off. Repeat the process until the number next to the letter P on your right monitor is at 0. So red dots on the radar are bad. Green dots are the pilots you're after. And that's it, basically. There are a few other additional wrinkles that come to light as you play, but we'll talk about those as they come up. The essence of this game is flying around, occasionally shooting things. It's not really a shoot 'em up, but there is occasional shooting things, and rescuing the pilots. And sort of the main appeal of the game is that it's a sort of flight sim. I mean, it's not really a sim as such. It's a game where you fly a thing from a first-person perspective. And yeah, this is actually a pretty authentic recreation of the Rescue on Fractalus experience. It obviously moves a bit smoother than the original 8-bit versions. The graphics are a little bit more advanced. This is why I was mentioning the Jaguar possibly having different graphics modes earlier on. Because this looks like it's running in a very, very low resolution graphics mode. But as a result, it performs really, really well. Like, you'll see this is quite a lot smoother than some of the other games we've seen today. this is also the game that triggered my feeling that the Jaguar is actually a successor to the 2600 and company. Almost entirely as a result of the font it uses. Because there's a font that comes up when it's giving you a bit of feedback on the message bar at the top of the screen that just looks so much like text you'd see on a 2600 game that I just thought, oh, right. Suddenly everything makes sense. Anyway, this is a cool game that I like very much. And the level we've started on perhaps isn't the best demonstration of it since everything is bathed in darkness. There's a saucer somewhere trying to kill me. Where is it? I'll find it with the power of stereo. He's gone. Alright. Yeah, some nice stereo sound in this, actually. You can sort of hear where the enemies are. And when the pilots are knocking on your airlock, you can hear that that's off to one side of your ship. Two more pilots to find. There's one. Well, gold pilot. He's an ace, so he's worth more points. Please, enter and be merry. Yeah, that font there that says ace rescued. That just looks so much like text you'd see on a 2600 that it just made me think, oh, right, okay. Maybe I've been thinking about this system wrong all these years. And sure, there are those of you out there who might not think that the Jaguar being a successor to the Atari 2600 is necessarily a desirable thing. And that's fine. But if you've always had sort of a soft spot for the Atari way of doing things, so to speak... Who's shooting at? You are! Get out of here. If you've always had a soft spot for the Atari way of doing things, which is a very distinctive way of doing things, it has to be said, for better and worse, then there's a lot to like here on the old Jaguar. Come on in, boy. Oops. Sorry. I was only trying to destroy the flying saucer, but your ship was in the way, and I've already met my quota, so it doesn't really matter. Mothership! So now we have to fly above the dotted line on the altimeter on the left-hand side. Press the 7 button on the numeric keypad. And then we fly off back into space. And our mission is complete. For now. There we go. There's some points and bonuses. And then you go and do it all again. But slightly harder. So see, this time we've actually got a daytime mission, so we've got a bit more visibility. Not a lot more visibility, it has to be said, but a bit more visibility. A lot more enemies, though. We need to make sure we do something about those, or position ourselves where they're not going to hit us at the very least. I really like the way this game looks, actually, because to me it looks like the visuals you'd get in a pre-rendered intro sequence on a PC game circa 1992. Except you're actually playing it. And I include the low resolution and all the pop-up and the hazing and the limited colour palette in all that. I just like it because it looks like It looks like a pre-rendered intro sequence. Because you have to remember, even our sort of pre-rendered CG back at this time was of questionable quality. I don't know if quality is the right word. Maybe fidelity, resolution. Oh, he's got a green helmet. That means he's an alien, which means... Bleh! Just like Rescue on Factor, see? I don't think that is quite as frightening as it was in Rescue on Factorless, which is a bit of a shame. Part of that's down to the quiet sound output that we've already talked about. Who dares shoot at me? You do. Yeah, part of that is down to the quiet sound output. So if you had the sound cranked up a bit more, then that would probably be more frightening. But still. 4 more pilots to go. Come on in. 3 more pilots to go. I do like how you don't have to be super accurate with your shots in this. It's sort of implied there's so much splash damage from your shots that you just have to fire vaguely near things to destroy them. Which is fine. It might not be realistic and it might look a little bit ridiculous at times, but it certainly makes the whole thing more playable and enjoyable as far as I'm concerned. Enter! Ace rescued. I think the main threat. Oops. The main threat to your well-being is those saucers, because those are the only real threats that kind of move around. You're a good boy. Come on in. Just far enough away from that. Oh, it's an alien. It's an alien. Kill him! Yes! Kill him with my engines. I see you, saucer, trying to sneak around that mountain at me. You still hit me, but I saw you. You're down in this canyon, aren't you? I can't get down there. I can, but you'll do. You're my last one for today. And relax. Open up! No mothership yet. Over the top of that. Oh, I see a saucer. Die! See? No need for accuracy when you have splash damage on your side. Mothership! Escape! Alright. On to level, what are we on now? 7. Yes. This one is yellow. This is sort of the classic Fractalus colour scheme. The sort of orange haze. And the brown mountains. You're an alien. Get out of here. I will have none of your shenanigans. Ooh, lots of enemies. Many enemies. Oh, hit by saucers again. You might notice that you get some energy back from every pilot you rescue. Energy is the red bar on the right-hand side of the cockpit. Where are you? Down here. Am I close enough? You're a gold one. We like you. You're worth more points. Another chappie over here. Yeah, this game is a good example of the homebrew community on the Jaguar. Because this isn't a commercial game, but this could have quite easily been released as a full-on Jaguar game, and I think people would have been very happy with it as well. Because Rescue on Fractalus was always a popular game, and I think someone doing an unofficial homage to it, or even one with the blessing of Lucasfilm, would have been amazing. Like, can you imagine if they'd released like Super Rescue on Fractalus or something for the Jaguar? I'd have bought it. In fact, although I just downloaded this game from its thread, its thread on Atari Age, this game is good enough and likable enough for me to actually seriously consider buying a cartridge for it. I'm going to go ahead and assume that it's because it's been out for a good few years that those cartridges probably aren't readily available anymore. Get out of here, alien. But if they are readily available, that's something I'd quite like to add to my collection. Ooh! You! There you are. Come on over. Come on over. Hop in. Ignore the laser burns on the hull. Everything's fine. This is a perfectly safe ride. We'll take you home. We'll get you home, no worries. Space Uber, that's all I am. Taxi! Another ace. Yes, please. Ooh, no, you are. And if I try and shoot you, I'll kill that pilot, so... Let's do the job properly. Is there another one here? No. Alright, all good. It's safe now. Come on out. Hop in, please. If you think you're going to be sick, please use the cover on the back seat. Ooh. If you think you're going to be sick, please do it out the window at that flying saucer. You're my last one for today, mate! Hooray! Now to wait for the mothership. Maybe pick up a couple of stragglers on the way. You never know. You do get bonus points if you exceed your quota for a mission, but you don't have to. But you do have to keep flying around until the mothership appears. Because otherwise there's nothing to go back home to. Very nice. The one thing I do miss from the original Rescue on Fractalus is the engine sounds. The engine sounds in the Atari 8-bit version of Rescue on Fractalus are so good. They add so much to the sort of drama of the situation. And they're really simple sounds too. It's just a sort of distorted, generic engine sound with a kind of whistling noise overlaid over the top of it. But there's just something about that sound effect that really gets me excited and pumped up when I'm playing Rescue on Fractalus. And the sort of gentle swish that your spaceship makes in this just isn't quite the same for me. It does the job though. It does the job, and the explosions are nice. And the other sound effects are decent. Some music might have been cool during the missions. But then there's also something to be said for the kind of lonely atmosphere that the simple sound effects create in this. Because this is very much a game about being lonely and isolated and having to deal with that. You die. Come on in, sunshine. There's room for 7 more of your friends. Already rescued you. You haven't been rescued though. Come on in. Unless you're an alien, in which case I will set fire to you with my shields and engines. Nearly accidentally did that anyway then. Right, I spy... Oh, I hear a saucer. You, sir, are an alien. And we don't like your kind around here. Stop that. Stop it. Stop it. Yes. That's what we do to you. You. You lift, mate. Oh, another bloody... Yes. Have some. Oh! I knew I'd do that at least once. Press the wrong button. Never mind, it's fine. It's fine, there's plenty more pilots out there to rescue. He didn't have a wife and family or anything like that, it's fine. Lonely Jenkins, they called him. You're an alien, so die. You're not an alien, so come on in. Come on in. You're a flying saucer, so I will destroy you. Another one down here somewhere. Several round here, actually. Can't see the one that's close to me, but it's somewhere on top of me. Where are you? There you are. Hello. Enter. Getting kind of Empire Strikes Back Hoth vibes from this level. No bad thing. Oh, I hear a saucer. Ow! Oh, they do so much damage. My only real criticism of this game is that it's a bit easy. Or rather, it starts off very easy and it doesn't get harder very quickly. That's what she said. I know, I know. I feel like the sort of threat level should build up a little bit more quickly. Although with the limited number of enemies, with the limited enemy types rather, I'm not sure how they could maybe achieve that, but well, I guess that was an issue with the original as well. So it's just being authentic. And I don't believe there's an end to the game either. You just keep playing and it sort of gradually gets harder and harder. I've already rescued you. What about you? Well, now we're just going around in circles. You haven't been rescued. Oh, hello. But you didn't have a green helmet. That's not fair. Well, that's not nice, is it? Well, there's a shot in the arm for my complacency, if nothing else. Be a nice person, please. Knock, knock. Knock, knock. And no, you're an alien. You're an alien. Battleship, get me out of here. Peace and quiet. Again? You want me to go out there again? Well, fine. Just because you asked nicely. I don't think you ever have to rescue more than 10 pilots in a single mission. The early stages you have fewer than 10, but I think once it gets to 10, that's all you have to worry about. Next, please. Ow. There's quite a lot of enemies around on this stage. Maybe it is getting a bit harder. Ow. Ow. I think we might also be taking more damage from stuff as well, so maybe it gets harder that way. Either way, it is starting to get more difficult, which is good. Because as good as a game is, you don't necessarily want it to go on forever. I hear a saucer. Stunning shot, I'm sure you'll agree. You, sir. Hop aboard my spacecraft. Unless you're green, in which case I will destroy you. No. No, no, no. None of that nonsense, if you please. I said, none of that. Oh no! Where did you learn to fly? Where did you learn to fly? Where did you learn to fly? Wrong game! Wrong game. Right system. Oh, I do not like those unmarked aliens. I don't remember those being a thing in the original Rescue on Fractalus, but, well, there they are. Okay, so that was Fallen Angels, a well-regarded homebrew game that I'm rather fond of. Yes, you're thinking of Cybermorph, the original pack-in game for the Jaguar. Yes, Jaguar plus abstract landscapes plus vehicle equals that game in my head. Yes, you'd be forgiven for thinking that because that is one of the more well-known Jaguar games for sure. But no, that was Fallen Angels, which is basically a remake of Rescue on Fractalus from the Atari 8-bit for the Jaguar, and a very good version it is too. Right, let's have a look at some other homebrews. Here's Ducky Egg, which, as the name suggests, is a Jaguar version of Chucky Egg. No, this is a real Jaguar we're playing on here. A real, proper, actual working Jaguar. The only sort of aftermarket thing we've got on there is the Jaguar game drive, which is an SD card solution for the Jaguar. Yeah, I'm yet to see sort of decent Jaguar emulation or even an FPGA solution for it as yet. I'll be interested to see how Digital Eclipse's stuff in that new Atari compilation comes out, because that will be the sort of first commercially available Jaguar re-releases I think we've ever seen. So I'm curious to see how that comes out, but Digital Eclipse's approach isn't to emulate, it is to port. So what they do is they port stuff to their own engine and then release it that way. Oh, not to worry, not to worry. I'm aware that people will come and go over the course of a complete stream, and hope your son's feeling better soon. So my wife's under the weather at the minute as well, so hoping I don't suffer the same thing. It's looking worryingly like she's got COVID again, but we're hoping that's not the case and that it's just a bad cold or something, but fingers crossed. Whoops. Yeah, there's still the odd thing that doesn't work quite right in emulators, isn't there? For the most part, it's pretty good. But the trouble is there isn't quite a one-size-fits-all solution. if you're unfamiliar, I work with the guys on the Evercade platform, and oh dear, a lot of the work those guys do is on specifically optimizing and tweaking emulators so that various games work properly. So there really isn't a sort of one-size-fits-all solution for a lot of games, particularly when really working with more complex stuff like arcades. But yeah, I agree. Sort of by preference, my preference is always for original hardware where possible. Sometimes it's just not practical, particularly with the price of original hardware in games these days, which is, I guess, where the EverDrive and stuff comes in. But it is nice to have the convenience of emulation and FPGA and that sort of thing. And increasingly going forwards, we're going to have to rely on those things for preservation, I think. But over time, they will improve. Things will get better. They won't necessarily end up completely matching original hardware, but you think of the strides we've made in the last 20 years or so. Pretty incredible. Oops. Oops. Yeah, there is definitely the appeal of an all-in-one solution. So, my desktop computer, which we have in the lounge as a living room PC, we've got like a bunch of emulators and ROMs and Launchbox set up on there, so there's like a vast quantity of things you've got easy access to on there. Then I've got the Evercade, which provides nice curated collections, because sometimes if you've got complete ROM sets or everything, you just sort of look at that big list of stuff and you go, well, where to begin? Whereas if you've got a curated collection of stuff, you're much more likely to go, okay, right, so I've got 12 games here, I'll give them all a go and see which ones I like the best. I've also got an Anbernic Win 600, which is basically a Steam Deck equivalent. And that runs most emulators very well. It'll apparently do up to Wii U without too much difficulty. I haven't tried it for anything beyond PS1 yet. Supposedly its one weakness is PS2, but that's always been a difficult thing to get right for quite a long time anyway. But certainly for most of the stuff I've tried to play on it to date, it's handled admirably well, including arcade stuff, like Neo Geo stuff, which can be a bit of a pain to get working sometimes. Oh dear. Chucky egg jumping mechanics I am out of practice with. Yeah, the Anbernic Win 600 is a little bit different, because rather than being based on it's a PC basically. So rather than a little Linux box, or basically a what is effectively a Raspberry Pi or something equivalent in a handheld form factor, the Win 600 is a PC, so it'll run Windows, it'll run SteamOS if you want it to. I tried that and didn't like it very much, so I went back to Windows. For retro gaming, I use Buttercera, which is a Linux variant specifically designed for retro gaming, so it's very lightweight. It's got stuff like Emulation Station and RetroArch built into it. So it's very good. Most reviewers have sort of bagged on the Win 600 a bit because it's relatively expensive for the specs you get, and the Windows performance isn't amazing. But realistically speaking, I picked it up primarily as an emulation device and something to play visual novels on, neither of which are particularly intensive things to do with it. I also picked it up when it was first available for pre-order, when it was a bit cheaper, and so it wasn't unreasonably expensive for me. So, yeah. Alright, anyway, that is Ducky Egg. Let's try something else. Yeah, Batacera is really good. I've been very impressed with that. Let's play Battlesphere Gold. Yeah, it's good stuff. I've written some more extensive words about the Win 600 and my experiences with Batacera and with running Windows stuff on it over on Rice Digital. If you take a look at ricedigital.co.uk and search for Win 600 or Batacera or whatever, then you'll find some info there. Right, this game is Battlesphere Gold, which occupies a kind of strange position in the Jaguar library because it was, I guess you'd call it a homebrew of sorts, but it's a very polished one. It had a commercial release, and apparently the copyright holder is fairly notorious about sort of taking things like scans of the manual down and that kind of thing. But it is readily accessible to get from places like Atari Mania and so on, and it's a cool game. So it's worth taking a look at. It's basically Star Raiders, which I'm very happy about. So we'll try Alone Against the Empires mode, which I haven't really done much with before. Gauntlet Mode is a sort of wave-based mode where you fight off waves of enemies. Free for All is just you fight a bunch of enemies. There's a training mode that sort of teaches the controls and stuff. But let's have a go at this. This game's quite noteworthy because it supports networking Jaguars. So I think you can network up to like 32 Jaguars with this game. It's crazy. And then play it multiplayer. Very exciting. Anyway, let's have a go. Pick a ship first of all. Oh, that'll do. The fake X-Wing. And we're in space. Right, so let's bring up the map. Now, oddly, in this game, red is good and green is bad. So we need to take aim for a green sector. You also need to command your forces as well. So fire seas command defending ships. So if I command those, set new defense destination. You go over there. You go up here. You go over here. And you go over here. And then what I will do is I will go over here. And hyperspace? Is that the right button? Yes. Anyway, yes, like I say, this game is basically Star Raiders. Which is good, because I love Star Raiders. Starbase 26 is under attack. Oh no. Just as I've come to wherever this is. Alright, well, let's take care of the situation here. Since we're here and all that. Ooh. That did a number on my shields, but that's what I get for doing a head-on attack, I guess. Alright, you come here. Nope. No, I said come here. Maybe let's knock the speed down a bit. There you are. I have you now. Oh, you're too maneuverable. That's what I get for flying a super ship. They should have called this game Jag Raiders. Absolutely. And there's previous evidence of games calling themselves Jag whatever, like Jag Triss was, I think, the first ever Jaguar homebrew game. Jaguar Tetris, or it's known as various things. It doesn't seem to have an official name, but it gets referred to as Jag Triss quite a lot. Not an amazing version of Tetris, I have to say, but you know, it's noteworthy as the first homebrew game. This is amazing, though. This is a great game. Like, oh god, dead already. Well, that went well, didn't it? Good. Let's try that again, shall we? Let's try a different ship. What about? Oh, looks like fun. The Triluminary. Right. Again, let's command them. So you go there. You go there. You go there. You go over there. You go over there. And you go over there. So I guess I'm here. Now let's take aim for this one, I guess. I like how all the different ships in this have different cockpits. That's cool. That would have made me very happy back in the day. I've always been fond of games that unfold from a first-person perspective. And which have sort of unique things for the different craft you're flying or driving or whatever. One thing this game is missing that I think it could really do with is some sort of range indicator. Because it is a slight problem that you can target stuff, but you don't really know how far away it is by anything other than visual contact. Oh, that knackered my shields good and proper, didn't it? Let's take a moment to recharge those. Shields is the S gauge on the right, if that wasn't already obvious. And E is your energy gauge. That gradually fills back up. And over on the left-hand side, you can see how many shots your current amount of energy will provide you with. At the moment, I can fire 47 shots before I need to let my energy recharge a bit. Oh god. Taking an absolute pounding. Bring it round, drop the speed a bit. That's the stuff. Get him from behind. Speed a bit again. Over on the left, the gauges you've got, V is your velocity and T is your throttle. So it takes a little while for your speed to adjust to whatever you set your throttle to, which is a nice touch. Makes it feel a little bit more realistic. Sector cleared! Marvellous. Right, okay, now what? So you go there. You go and help them out. And no other starbase is in massive danger at the minute. I will go take out this one fighter because I'm lazy. And why do all the work when you can get people to do it for you? Hyperspace! Alright, one measly fighter. I can deal with that, surely. Now, ow, 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 ow. Stop trying to take people on head on. It doesn't end well. Come here. Come here. Good. Good, good, good. Right. So that's going reasonably well. You go there. And you go there. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This could be a problem. Better go and defend that starbase, I guess. I'm on the case. Don't you worry. I'll save the day. My favourite Star Raiders clones. Depends on what you define as a Star Raiders clone. Probably Star Luster on the Famicom. Which I only discovered quite relatively recently, thanks to the Evercade. It's on one of the Namco collections. I didn't know that game existed until relatively recently. But yeah, Star Luster is an excellent Star Raiders clone. It's PlayStation's sequel. Star Ixiom is also very, very good. Oh no! Oh no. I'm a failure. But I can still take some enemy bad guys out with me. Put the speed back a little bit so we don't overshoot everyone. Couple more. Oh, you're a nimble little bugger. Oh, you can change direction very quickly. Stop shooting me, please. Thank you. Have some. Did I get him? I think I got him. If you're interested in Star Ixiom, I did a video on it well, not a long time ago, but a couple of years back on my channel. So oh no, I'm dead. So if you just search through my channel for Star Ixiom, you should find a video on that. Again, I've written about it in various places as well. I think I wrote an article on it on Murray Gamer. Overrated? I don't know really. I tend not to like to use the overrated descriptor too much because for every person's overrated, there's an underrated system. You know, I mean, we're looking at the Jaguar right now. There's a lot of people who hate that, and I'm not a big fan of people hating on it because there's a lot of really cool stuff on it worth exploring. So I don't know really. I think probably I'll go with the system I have the least interest in would be like the most recent Xboxes. So like at the moment I see very little reason to own an Xbox Series S or X or whatever. It's not that I think they're overrated or anything. It's just that I just don't really see a reason for them. There's not many in the way of exclusives. Most of the good stuff you can get on PC anyway. It's not a very good collector's system because most of the games are digital downloads, so if that's the case, you may as well get them on PC anyway. So yeah, I guess that's my answer. So we're playing Gauntlet Mode now. Gauntlet Mode is a bit simpler than the Star Raiders type mode we were just playing. Here you've got a bunch of star bases all in one sector, and you just have to defend them against incoming waves. And those waves gradually get more intense. It's a good way to get a bit of practice at the combat in this game. As you can see, the Alone Against the Empires mode is sort of intended to be the main mode of the game, but it's also the most difficult. Yeah, the PS5's had a bit of a shaky start as well. I mean, couple that with the price increase and stuff as well. Again, the PS5 kind of has the same problem, really. There's a couple of exclusives on it, but in the case of that platform, those exclusives, most of them you can get on PS4, and it's not a significantly inferior experience on PS4. Like, the frame rate might be a little bit worse, which some people care about, but I don't. One target remaining. You do seem to take much less damage in this mode. I don't know if it's just because I'm playing on a low difficulty level or something. Wave complete. Awesome! Bomber wave. Yeah, there's got to be a way to make this a little bit harder. Let me just quit out of that mode for a sec. Ship type. Alright, well let's try playing with a fighter rather than a super ship. And let's just have one friendly base to defend. And we'll give that ship a go. A Trident. So now we've just got this one base here to defend. In the pink. We're flying a fighter, which should be much faster but much weaker. It should bump up the challenge factor a bit. Oh yeah, that's more like it. That's more of a challenge. And on to the next. There are other weapons in this, but I'm not entirely sure how you use them properly. Like, I know how to switch them, but they don't seem to do very much to the enemies. But what I do like about them is they make the same sound as the photon torpedoes in Star Raiders, which is fantastic. But they don't recharge with your energy. You only have a limited number of those. And I'm not really sure what they're for, because they don't seem to do very much damage. So I kind of feel like you may as well stick with your lasers. Maybe they're better against capital ships or something. Oh yeah. I like that the aiming reticle in this has built-in sort of it knows that you need to lead your shots, and so it only glows that solid red when you are pointing in the right direction to lead your targets properly. That's a really nice touch. Reminds me a bit of the old LucasArts games used to do something along those lines. I think the Wing Commander games did as well. They sort of gave you a target to aim at that was ahead of the actual targeted brackets that you saw on screen. Ow, 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 ow. Yeah, I'm very fond of this game in particular. Battlesphere Gold, it's called if you needed a refresher. It is quite notoriously hard to find one, from what I can make out. There's apparently a lot of dodgy reproductions of it on eBay. And I don't think you can get like proper copies of it anymore. But it is available on Atari Mania. They have a version of it for download there. Ooh, low on energy. Let's try the torpedoes again, shall we? See, now I'm out of them. And I can't use them anymore. I wonder if you can restock them by... I don't know if you can dock with the starbase in this mode, is the only thing. One target remaining. Death? Death? Come on. He doesn't think I'm a threat. There we go. Awesome. Alright, let's see if we can't dock with the starbase. And get restocked on whatever those things are. The Star Raider's gun. Now, question is... Oh, you can go backwards. I didn't know that. I did not know you could fly backwards in this game, but apparently you can. That's good to know, I guess. Hello? Where are you? There you are. Right, as I was saying... I believe there's a button you can press to dock, but I don't know what it is. No! Pressing the full throttle button is not the way to dock with the starbase. Oh dear me. Oh dear me. Oh dear me indeed. Oh. Right, having gone on for a couple of hours, and I think I just heard my wife getting up. I think it's probably time to call it a night. But, I hope those of you who have stopped by have had some good fun exploring the Jaguar library with me. This is something I want to do a bit more of at some point in the future. As I mentioned on Twitter, I'm probably going to do an Atari Jaguar A to Z series at some point, because I think there's enough value in this library to warrant looking at each game individually. So I'll do that at some point. I don't know when that's going to start yet, because it'll mean sort of fitting it in along with the other stuff that I want to do, and work commitments and streaming and that sort of thing, but I'm sure we can make it work. Anyway, yes, thank you very much for stopping by and watching. Thank you very much to those who stopped by earlier and have disappeared. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then thank you for watching on YouTube as well. Now, I understand the convention at this point is to send people off on a raid somewhere else. But I don't really know very many streamers, So I'm just going to pick someone. Who should we pick? Retro Jenny, you sound like fun. What is Retro Jenny playing right now? Retro Jenny is playing an ad right now. Come on, I just want to see what she's playing. Well, whatever. I'll start a raid. She's got a few viewers, and if you want to join her, then please do. Oh, hold on. Wait. Slash raid. Retro Jenny. That's how you do it, I think. The raid has been created. There we go. Anyway, just remains for me to say before you disappear, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.